Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, and follow. Turn up your notifications so you're notified whenever we go live. Let me just make sure. Okay, good. Well, I just want to make sure my mic is working good. All right. So, welcome back. Welcome back. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, get ready to welcome a man of two powerful roles, publisher of SharpEdgeNews.com and I-Chief Odokwetu of Aide Ondo State. Whether in the newsroom or in the kingdom, is always ahead. Give it up for the legend Oladimeji Abitogun. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much, Ola. It's good to be back with you and our viewers all over the world. My sincere appreciation that we find time to do this every week, and it's become the weekly tonic for so many of our admirers all over the world. This is about putting it out in a concise, precise, and convincing way. The manner in which we can put developments in the news to good use and make sure that we have a good mental health and making sure that we protect ourselves from people who want to drive us crazy with loony ideas and policies all over the world. So when they are losing their head, it will be the best for us to keep ours. That said, good to be back this week.
All right, welcome, sir. Without any further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into our weekly SharpEdgeNews.com special report. Shall we?
Yes, thank you very much. It's been a fast-moving world, whether the world is rotating on its axis or revolving on it in the orbit. The truth of the matter is that things move so fast, and the developments are coming as they do in the last few days. And even today, the sad situation in which policies that come from different governments all over the world continue to shape things. Whether in Thailand, where for the opting time, a sitting prime minister has been removed. And we feel such events were shaped by the military ethos of that country and respect for the royal family, something we no longer embrace as we ought to all over Africa, because our royal institutions even precede what some of the new republics all over the world, what they have, which is why it's always a surprise when you find a major monarch like the Alaafin of Oyo picking a quarrel over what ought not to be, over what is so ordinary and mundane, picking a quarrel with the choice of who the spiritual head, the spiritual leader of Yoruba land, the Oni of Ife, picks to, who he chooses to honor at any point in time. And because monarchs all over Africa do not respect the institutions they represent, you find out that politicians do all sorts against them. But the politicians were successors to the shameful and disgraceful conduct of colonizers all over Africa. People who cajoled and deceived African kings and queens into signing up their legacies, or signing off their legacies rather. So these things bother us, and we think we can look inwards and understand who we are as a great people. We move fast to developments in places like Osun State and River State, and other places where the dynamics of politics are changing all over Nigeria. Everybody is thinking, oh, at some point, the second term ticket for whoever is the sitting president, and in this case, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria, that is going to just be a mere formality. It will be, the presidency will be his for the asking, or mere process of, what's it called? a first refusal or whatever they call it in politics. But now things are toughening up. Things are toughening up. Disclosures are coming, and some of them are beyond what sometimes will be described as a characteristic mudslinging in politics. For example, when the former governor, two-time governor of Kaduna State, and one-time minister of the Federal Capital Territory in Nigeria, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, gave a shocking disclosure on Sunday that the Nigerian government and the government of Kaduna State have been incentivizing, have been, so to say, paying off insurgents through the Office of the National Security Advisor of Nigeria. Everybody really must have been surprised, if not shocked, that such a thing is going on, because openly the government in Nigeria says, oh, no negotiation, no ransom payment to these insurgents. But the discovery from El-Rufai may be everything. Even I have a way of describing him. I see him as a present evil and ominous danger to democracy in Nigeria. I call him short man devil, not just because of his diminutive stature, because I'm a short man myself, but that doesn't really mean that the thoughts of my heart would always be dark and evil all the time. But because there have been issues, controversial issues involving Malam Nasir El-Rufai at different times in Nigeria since he was discovered on the scene, coming as the man that was handling the Bureau of Public Enterprise, through which several public holding interests in Nigeria were privatized, so to say. And so El-Rufai coming at this time, yes, initially we felt he was a security risk because of the way he had weaponized religion and how he was, after Ahmed Bola Tinubu was elected president, how he was mocking and making light of the seriousness of the Muslim ticket at the Nigerian presidency. So we felt that that was the major reason for the fact that the Senate decided not to approve of his nomination to become a minister. He'd been a minister before, unlike what he is saying now that, oh, no big deal about it. He was minister at age 43. Yes, at whatever age now, it's become almost impossible because of the path he traveled, the way he communicated things in a condescending way, divisive manner, not just to the people of Kaduna State where he was governor, but all over Nigeria. So if this is true, we need more convincing explanations, not just not mere lambast from the Nigerian presidency, because that is a trade in stock, well-known path for them. Somebody is offering constructive criticism, constructive suggestions. The Nigerian presidency's usual response is that of Bole Kaja, and they bring it on, and then they begin to rain invectives and say all kinds of stuff that could only be reasonably appreciated in the context of propaganda and misinformation. And on a sober note, this morning we heard of the passing away of the head of service of the Federal Capital Territory, in person of Mrs. Grace Ada Yilo. She was said to be very religious, but you find that all over Nigeria people are religious. Yes, the system is still messed up. We do not know if she was of a strong conscience, but she's been part of the administration being led by the chaotic character that is called Mr. Yesin Wike, former governor, two-time governor of Rivers State and sitting FCT minister. We pray that the family will have the fortitude to bear this huge loss, and to the workforce of Federal Capital Territory, we pray that Providence would provide for them a good lead following the passing on of Mrs. Gilo. Of course, you have also heard of the unfortunate situation in which a young Nigerian, a young mother for that matter, died after she was mauled down by an haulage vehicle belonging to Dangote Group. The Dangote company has issued statements regretting the untimely death and the efforts being made, not just through insurance policies, but also making direct intervention to see if she could be evacuated to India for further medical attention before the sad development, the sad twist yesterday. But to make this brief, so much untimely deaths all over Nigeria. And we're going to talk of a situation in Akwa Ibom State where a pregnant woman waited, bleeding, profusely until she died, just because of the ineptitude of Nigeria's public health administration, or administrators rather. The governor of the state, knowing fully well what happened, is now saying, oh, investigation will be instituted. That is needless. Food for the boys again. So tragedy upon tragedy, there will be tragic loss of money belonging to the people, taxpayers, even having lost a dear mother there. The woman who was in labor died, and then the pregnancy was also, I think they said she was carrying the pregnancy of twins. No, the baby in the belly, whether twins or not, died. Also in the Federal Capital Territory, another woman who, for not having 28,000 naira, less than $20, had to kick the bucket with the baby, the two babies, the twins in the belly, already decaying because of issues of poverty and inadequate medical care. And Nigeria continues to occupy that ominous position of being responsible, according to World Health Organization, 1/3 of the global maternal mortality rate. In this time and age, no wonder there are all kinds of superstitions, whether through churches, mosques, or traditional healing homes, about the phenomenon of Abiku Obanje, or the spirit child. But for how long will this continue? These are preventable through good prenatal attention and post-delivery care. The former governor Mimiko of Ondo State tried to do something about that. Those legacies were eroded. Nigerians do not know how to sustain things built on solid foundations. I'm shaking my head, and in good conscience, on a final note, and I'm saying this with all seriousness, every public health educator and campaigner all over Nigeria that are doing stuff, not giving adequate attention to what they are hired to really do, perpetuating the culture of fraud and corruption, not dedicated to real primary health care campaigns as it used to be. You need to watch out. I hope nobody is digging that hole for some serious retribution, some serious karma, some serious reckoning, not just in a divine way, but all over the country. That said, we also know Wike still ran his mouth this morning in Nigeria. He still ran his mouth. The shameful grassroots, so-called grassroots local government election in Rivers State, he is the only one applauding it. But everybody felt it was an aberration. Everybody felt this is a situation that has exposed the intentions of people in Nigeria. They have already crossed the bridge. They have climbed the mountain. They do not care if they destroy democracy. What a shame. What a sorry situation. That said, Ola, good to be back this week.
Welcome back, sir. Thank you so much for that apt special of the week. Do us a favor, please. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified whenever we go live or drop videos. We do have some other trendy stories around the world. And we'll be right back. Welcome back. Revealed how Osinbajo fought DSS over Sowore's detention. So I'm going to read this article. There's an article that was posted on opinionnigeria.com. And it reads, sometime, and I quote, sometime in 2019 at the height of Sowore's detention by the Buhari government and the DSS refusal to obey a court order for his release, I booked an appointment with the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. I was aware of the previous efforts made by VP Osinbajo to get the DSS to comply, which almost led to a face-off with the security agency. A new book by veteran journalist Richard Akinnola
Yes,
has revealed how former Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo clashed with the Department of State Services DSS over the agency's refusal to comply with the court order for the release of activist Omoyele Sowore during the Muhammadu Buhari administration. In the book titled I Write What I Like, Akinnola recounted sometime in 2019 at the height of okay, this is just the same quote. I'm going to jump to the next quote here. Say, according to Akinnola, Osinbajo had expressed frustration at the DSS defiance. And I quote, Osinbajo said he had a job to go back to after leaving office and he would not be around when such an order was being flouted. The DSS had told him that there could not be two presidents, a veiled reference to how Osinbajo, as acting president in 2018, sacked Lawal Daura as DG of DSS. The author revealed that on the same day he visited Osinbajo, further pressure was mounted on the government and Sowore was released. Beyond advocacy, and I quote, beyond advocacy, I sometimes explored back channels to get things done, like in the case of the then detained Shiite leader El Zakzaki, who was eventually granted bail through his method, Akinnola added. The 198-page book, which compiles some of Akinnola's Facebook posts between 2017 and 2025 across 20 chapters, will be unveiled on Saturday, September 13 at the Airport Hotel. All right, so it's a book promo, but do you know who this person is? Richard Akinnola?
Oh, he's a well-known Nigerian journalist.
Okay.
Yeah, he's accomplished, and he's a very good prose stylist. One of the best,
Okay.
one of the best journalistic ends to have ever come out of Africa. So I doff my hat for him, and I congratulate him on the writing of the book. And when it eventually hits the book stands, we will do our best to grab a copy, read through, and digest the content. But the disclosure is not going to be a surprise to anybody, considering the fact that some of us have been involved in the tactics that have been so described there. We do not just make sure that we write. We do not make sure that we report. We also make sure that we get proactive. And I was listening to the publisher of Oriwuson, a major community newspaper. I do not know if it's the first community newspaper in Nigeria, but it's celebrating its first 40 years now. And the publisher was talking of the place of the journalist, the news publisher, and I mean, has been that of immense power and influence. And I agree with that, absolutely. And if anybody is going to doubt the place of a journalist in history, they just, I mean, or in contemporary uh, situations for that matter, they need to just go and study the life of uh, the man that is known as the father of journalism and one of the founding fathers of the United States of America, Thomas Paine. You know, Thomas Paine with his extensive works. But let me just give you um, I mean, a glimpse into what Thomas Paine constitutes. I mean, not just being a pamphleteer, not just being a journalist. Thomas Paine did so much single-handedly, writing even when the morale of the U.S. military was so down um, during the years of independence. Through his writing, some people would describe him as an hack. He was more than that. He was a concertizer. He was somebody that could stir a sleeping rock. So, through his powerful reportage, through his powerful articles, essays, and what have you, he was able to really encourage and embolden the U.S. military, the American military, to hang through. But, you know, when people want to be mischievous, they look at the journalist as a blackmailer, which is quite unfortunate. No journalist blackmails anybody. They just want to speak truth to power beyond having to report accurately in a scientific and empirical way. But the sense of appreciation of the public, whether you are looking at the time, I mean, in the Bible that they were described as scribes that would be in company of Sadducees and Pharisees to consistently torment Jesus Christ with their probes and questions. They were described as scribes in the Bible. All right? So when you bring that to the present day world and their influence, not many people loved Thomas Paine in those days, particularly when he started investigating the shenanigans and underhand tactics of people like George Washington and politicians of the time. Somebody that was so mighty in the use of the pen and the ink. You know, when he died, and everybody in America was doffing the hat for him as a practicing journalist. You know, the only person that I have found to be a type of Thomas Paine in Nigeria was the late Dr. Stanley McCable. Anytime I was with him, especially when he became special senior assistant to President Olusegun Obasanjo, in charge of special duties. Anytime I was with him, I was always using him as a proxy to get into the workings of the mind of Olusegun Obasanjo. What I noticed about him, apart from the fact that he was a chain smoker and somebody who drank good liquor, the inspiration that gave to him, and I was looking at the character of Thomas Paine through Dr. Stanley McCable, one of the founding editors of the Ghanaian newspaper in Nigeria. And I mean, like it's been said in the biography of Thomas Paine, that whenever he was down, just a glass of wine or good liquor will stir him up, writing profusely and brilliantly. So people like Mr. Richard Akinnola, using back channel, I'm not saying that he's like that. I'm just comparing between the influence wielded by the average journalist who has a sense of direction and purpose, not the ones that will become, what's it called, perpetual occupiers of doing nothing at the press centers all over, NUJ press centers all over Nigeria, not those type, the ones they call PCPC. No, I'm not talking of those ones. The ones that really know their audience and then they use that kind of influence and power to serve the interests of the citizenry, the country, and the constitution of the country. So if this did happen under Muhammadu Buhari, then you will see that the forces against Omoyele Sowore or the then vice president himself, Dr. or Professor Yemi Osinbajo, will not just be mere persons in uniform or carrying what's it called, anonymity within the law enforcement agencies of Nigeria. It's about an entrenched interest, an abiding situation which borders on trying not to respect some people they have marked out in government as being somebody who will not serve the interests of the number one citizen. But would it not be seen as a kind of paradox, if not irony, that vice presidents or deputy governors are supposed to enjoy joint tickets with whoever is the number one on the ticket, with whoever is running for the president, is running as president. The vice president has a joint ticket with the number one. And when the number one is not there and the vice president or the deputy governor is acting in place of the number one, so why would somebody be so mischievous to come up with that kind of reaction that there can't be two presidents? Who is pretending, or who is trying to usurp the place of the president in this situation? So people can be overzealous, that is, law enforcement agents. Do not let us misunderstand what I'm saying here. We commend them. We love them for what they do, keeping the security of the nation going, or securing whoever occupies the highest office in the land. However, that thing they do, trying to undermine the instructions or constructive advice from the office of the number two, especially when he is not trying to bifurcate the authority of number one, that is the president. I can always look at that as being mischievous and acting inappropriately. Finally, on this subject, there were so many obvious struggles, obvious orders for Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, as he then was, that we knew, but to get a handle on it, and it's not just Yemi Osinbajo's problem alone. Yes, Richard Akinnola was fortunate to have access to him. Whether you wanted to have sex Yemi Osinbajo through his media aide, Laolu Akonde, who was one of us in the United States there, or through other channels, it was not really difficult. It was not really easy to get through to Yemi Osinbajo as vice president. Some people did, but from our own stable, there were times we tried to reach him, and we were always dealt out. So, and there were things we had wanted to contribute, because we believe Nigeria is the land of our birth. Like I've always encouraged everybody in the diaspora, there is one thing: the influence of Jewish people in the diaspora. I have given an insight into how the then nuclear physicist who invented the atomic bomb or nuclear bomb, whichever way you want to call it, through the Manhattan Project, Albert Einstein, the man who was chiefly known for the law of relativism in physics and science generally. He was elected the first honorary president of the state of Israel in 1947. He never visited that country. He lived in America. But till today, you look at the leverage coming from Israelis in the diaspora, Jewish people in the diaspora. You cannot really push them aside. That is what I wish for Nigerians in the diaspora as well. But look at them, the way people in Nigeria talk about those of us in the diaspora as if we do not have a root, as if we do not, we were not born there before acquiring citizenship of other countries. That is not good enough. But to the main subject, when Mr. Richard Akinnola's book is out, that is the book you said is titled I Write What I Like.
I write what I like.
That in itself, that title itself would be debated, because you can write what you like in journalism. Maybe as an opinion writer, yes, it is a well-known fact that in journalism, facts are sacred. You can't manufacture those. Facts are sacred, but comments or opinions are
commentary,
free. So,
opinions.
yes, all those. But you also want to be a journalistic commentator. You must be well informed. No wonder people like Dr. Ruben Abati have won several prizes as, in respect of informed commentary. So, yes.
All right.
We look forward to seeing the book when it's finally unveiled. Thank you so much.
That's good. That's good. I'm sure we'll appreciate this.
Yeah, but good to know that some people really cared about Omoyele Sowore. You know, last week I spoke of the hypocrisy of the Nigerian politicians, Nigerian leaders, the Nigerian institution. They could hail a South African activist, the leader of the minority party in South Africa that was visiting Nigeria, who spoke at NBA conference last week. But Sowore does virtually everything that guy does in South Africa. They could celebrate the guy from South Africa, but they deride Sowore all the time. Thank you, Ola.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think there's much to say. Maybe another day. Nigerians don't necessarily appreciate people that fight for them.
They don't. They do not. If they don't reward them with some, if they don't reward them with arrest and having to inject them with killer substances in prison, they will frame them up, and they would even be joyous when foreign countries assist them to launch after them, and they say they send them to prison.
I think it's because a lot of these issues are. People are divided on which side they fall on. So it's a strong pusher.
Such divisions among humans is an existential thing, because we can all maintain unipolar opinions. So opinions would always differ. Thank you, Ola.
Thank you. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, follow, join the conversations. Let's move on to some other trendy stories around the world. We'll be right back. Trump blasts COVID vaccines ripped apart CDC. All right, so I'm reading this from CNN. President Donald Trump on Monday appeared to raise fresh questions about the COVID-19 vaccines that were first developed on his watch, saying his top public health agency is being ripped apart by debate over the success of the shots, while noting that he's seen, and I quote, great numbers and results from such drug companies. Trump demanded they prove publicly that vaccines are effective in combating COVID, and questioned whether unspecified data was being withheld from the public. And I quote, I want them to show them now to CDC and the public and clear up this mess one way or the other. Trump wrote on Truth Social, and I quote, I hope Operation Warp Speed was as brilliant as many say it was. If not, we all want to know about it and why. The post represented Trump's first public comment about the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention since the agency's former director, Dr. Susan Munares, was abruptly fired on Wednesday less than a month into her tenure and a dispute over vaccine policy. And it was yet another example of Trump trying to walk a narrow line between touting what he has at times called his greatest accomplishment, the rapid development of the COVID vaccine in 2020 during the first term, and embracing the vaccine skepticism popular with his MAGA base and promoted by a top health official, U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And I quote, "Many people think they are a miracle that saved millions of lives. Others disagree. With CDC being ripped apart over this question, I want the answer and I want it now," Trump wrote on the vaccines, claiming that drug companies don't share the extraordinary information he's seen. The president said those companies instead, quote, "go off to the next hunt and let everyone rip themselves apart, including Bobby Kennedy Jr. and CDC." All right, so see, of course, CNN has reached out to Pfizer and Moderna, and so there's what. Let me. I don't want to read any too much into this. What are your thoughts about this one, sir?
We can't continue to dignify somebody or the views or the not well thought out views of somebody whom we know to always want to cause diversion. There are serious national issues at the moment calling for the attention of President Donald J. Trump, but you know him. Everybody, most Americans at the moment know that when he seems to be engulfed by certain developments, usually self-instigated by him, he finds a way of bringing up topics that would short-live the seriousness of whatever he needs to address. For example, you remember his running battle with the former leadership of CDC, Center for Disease Control, during the COVID-19 fiasco in this country. The way body bags were coming out on industrial scale, the way morgue refrigerators were getting choked and packed with human remains in those days. That is not where we all want to go to. If anybody is in doubt as to the wonders of the COVID vaccines, well, maybe, and that would never happen under the watch of responsible leaders of the world anymore. Because to even consider the option, an option without COVID vaccines, is something I cannot wrap my brain around. That would be too twisted. It only could be the workings of a mind that does not comprehend the place of science and medicine. Honestly, nobody should take us back to medieval Europe or Dark Age time. People who doubt science, the efficacy of medicine, usually there's something about them. They do not think normal like the 90% of a human race. For example, there have been this kind of contestation between science and doubters in the past. Not genuine cynics, but cynicism itself is a factor for spring up hypotheses that scientists or objective researchers work on. It is when they go through such hypotheses, they arrive at theories, and then there can be practical conclusions as to the way forward. When the church was burying its head, the church, through the leadership of the papacy, the Pope, at a point was arguing about whether the world was spherical or flat. And then people who told them that the world is spherical, and they were advancing all the kind of, all the relevant supportive arguments as to the rising of the sun, the setting of the sun, the horizons, and all that. People were up in arms, and like you would see people that want to die in ignorance. There were people who put some scientists of that time who put them to death. But years later, the church realized that you don't just get stuck with some ancient, what's it called? Ancient book, and then begin to deny what is known to be obvious fact, objective fact. So if today, majority of humanity has been saved through COVID vaccines, and somebody is now demanding more proof and saying Pfizer, Moderna, and which other people, every other scientist that worked on that research should come out and prove to the world. Of course, that is not there, because even while he was rubbishing during his first term of office as president, while he was rubbishing the efforts by CDC to come up with workable vaccines, we were shocked when we heard that through a back channel he'd been vaccinated himself. So people will be dog-faced, they will be hypocritical, they want to confuse less privileged folks all over the world as to, science is a scam, education is a scam, but through that, you pry into their mind, it's a way of making up for what they lack. They cannot relate with the fertile mind, identify with the fertile mind of the average scientist or medical person or medical researcher. So their way of doing their stuff is just to cast aspersion and rubbish genuine accomplishments. The real issues at hand would be the kind of ruling that was obtained last weekend, stopping an aeroplane somewhere in Texas from taking illegally underage children or children that are not yet up to that age to be deported illegally to places like Guatemala and all those other things that have been visited, things that are so extreme, bordering on facade of democracy in this country. Those are the real issues at hand here. Having to pressurize CDC leadership, apart from the toll of death attending some of the erratic, lunatic, and irrational decisions of this present administration in the US at the moment, where preventable diseases are killing people all over the world. Are you talking of HIV/AIDS? Are you talking of possibility of what's it called? COVID itself having a resurge and other things going on all over the world. Nobody wants to talk about that, or the suspected corruption and fraud underlining the negotiations between the warring, what's it called? The warring hawks all over the world concerning Ukraine and Russia. People want to take attention away from all this and invasion of the different disagreeing states.
Well, let me throw you a curveball on that one.
Yeah, particularly states that have been controlled by Democrats, invading the streets with the unnecessary mobilization of National Guard, or what's it called?
Let me throw you a quick curveball on that one. Since you're on it, right? There's a headline from 6 hours ago. Says 54 shot over a weekend in Chicago as governor rejects Trump's threats to send in National Guard. This is was published by ABC News. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, it's the unintended thing that I mean, Americans cannot relate with that. I would do bring the military onto the streets in America. You take up maximum power, martial power against city mayors of cities and governors in different states. And then you begin to do all this, and then people are protesting. And now, from this report from ABC, 54 people already mauled them unnecessarily.
Shot, not murdered. I think 7 people were murdered. Yeah.
Okay, if there were 7 fatalities and then others injured, but there were shots, 54 people shot.
Yes.
These were people, and if he hadn't if he had not tried to flex some muscles to show that, oh, he is an alpha, the male chauvinism kind of thing that some people are applauding him for, which is unprecedented in the democratic evolution of the United States. We will not be burdening ourselves with such a tragedy at the moment. So these are the things we are talking about. Each time he brings up all these diversionary topics, you understand that something is, that he is trying to hide something from the public. There is always more. Two, you must be able to make contract distinction between the substance of what is going on and the shadows. This is the point I'm making. Some things are the undercurrents driving the lunatic physical actions. Should the country run like that? America used to be the best, and I think we can still maintain that lead in the world. But it's going to take some creative energy, some radical laser focus to make sure that we are taking account and keeping account of everything that is going on, such that even after him, this will not happen. But thank God, those children who would have been deported illegitimately, unlawfully to Guatemala at the weekend, got a reprieve because a federal judge ruled the act as
illegal.
Put a halt to it, and you should have seen the loads and loads of buses coming to the airport to take those children back into the United States.
All right.
Who runs the country like that?
All right.
So this is almost like worse than the separations that were witnessed during the Hitler years in the Second World War in Germany.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Well, we're going to leave that
there
at that.
There must be some creative response to all this. And I believe the institutions in America are strong enough to make sure that this person is stopped in his tracks.
All right. Thank you so much. Hit the like button, share, subscribe, follow, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live. Join the conversation in the comments. Let us know what your thoughts are. We'll be right back with some other trendy stories around the world. All right, Simon Ekpa convicted. A historic lesson for IPOB. I'm looking at a published article. What we do know is that he had been sentenced to 6 years by the Finland government. But let me read this article on Vanguard. Lead counsel to the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Ifeanyi Ejiofor, ESQ, KSC, has said that the conviction of Simon Ekpa today by a district court in Finland does not come as a surprise because he had long understood the weight of his infractions. The inherent weakness of his defense and the inevitable collapse of the fraudulent empire he built on lies, violence, and exploitation. He contended that from the very beginning, when EKPA launched its treacherous bid to usurp the authority of the Directorate of State (DOS) of the IPOB, his agenda was never hidden. He was aided, both openly and discreetly, by individuals and groups whose mission was to derail the genuine struggle for self-determination, sow confusion, and ultimately reduce Ala Igbo into a theater of violence, bloodshed, and blackmail. Reacting to EKPA's conviction in a press statement, the Jova admitted that at the time, EKPA and his followers succeeded with their deadly declarations, recklessly amplified across media platforms, were swallowed hook, line, and sinker by vulnerable and misguided elements. His so-called foot soldiers were never apprehended, would never mention his name or his Biafra Liberation Army (BLA). Instead, they falsely claimed to be IPOB members, thereby tarnishing the image of a peaceful global movement. This strategic deception provided the Nigerian state with excuses to brutalize innocent and peaceful agitators and criminalize a globally recognized peaceful movement. On his own public stand and sacrifices, declared, and I quote, "Throughout this dangerous era, I raised my voice on every available platform, including mainstream media, warning our people to reject Simon Ekpa and his poisonous preachings. I was attacked, vilified, and branded a saboteur simply because I insisted on speaking the truth." You know, everybody always claimed to be speaking the truth, sir.
Mm.
I'm just saying the truth.
Wow.
What do you
you had them. Did you hear the theatrical way in which Pontius Pilate asked Jesus?
Mm.
So tell me, what is the truth? That was what Pontius Pilate asked Jesus.
Mm.
Tell me.
The truth is confusion everywhere.
Tell me, what is the truth?
Mm.
Is it your truth? My truth? Objective truth? I mean, whose truth? And then who is that person that is able to
Can we all agree to this truth? I mean, it's just you.
Yes. So we go back, but let me say that the statement from Mr. Ejiofor is well thought out, and I can't agree any less. Why? It's a big relief to find clarity about the mission, the objective, and the goals that IPOB seeks to realize in its struggle for, I do not know if it's emancipation, but to make sure that the dignity of human person is extended to every southeastern Nigerian. I think it is not a crime to really demand or to want to, embrace self-determination to ask for that from any republic. However, the message, that ultimate end, the ultimate goal, is not the issue, but how Simon Ekpa was communicating that across. And there were times that one would suspect that, what's driving this agenda? Why is somebody using rhetorics that would instigate violence, assassinations, murder, and what have you? I would not want to talk too much about the content and the context of and the form of the messaging that came from Simon Ekpa, who has now been convicted in Finland. Because you know why? I'm still struggling within me to understand why people would vilify the average Igbo. And when the Igbo now says, okay, you don't like me, let me be on my own or allow us to have our space. You still don't want to let them go. It's almost like the epic confrontation between Moses and Pharaoh of Egypt. Remember, at Goshen in the land of Egypt, Israelites were subjected to all forms of dehumanization, degradation. And I've seen a movie where it was said that God created all of us free, but human beings decide to enslave themselves. So, if can be strictly applied in the context of the struggle of people in southeastern Nigeria, because the concept of Biafra itself cannot really strictly apply in this sense anymore. You don't have a unified southeastern Nigeria anymore. And at the time the phrase, the word Biafra was coined, it came from Bia come, from Igbo, Fra, from maybe Efik Ibibio. And all these people are no longer together as an entity. So if you are saying you want self-determination for the Igbo nation, that in itself, if you understand the way that landscape is, the geopolitics of Igbo land, the exact person does not really have the same, what's it called, a present need that you would say is the concern of Nike people, or this is what you are going to find among the Igbos in Anambra or Owerri and all that. It will be different from what you will find amongst people of Ohafia and elsewhere in Abia State. So it's almost like the complexity that you find amongst us Yorubas too. I'm not going to say that the issues that I am really, struggling with in Ayedogbe is the same as what the people in Oyo or Ibadan would want. Even from one street block to the other, it's so different that it's difficult to want to put everything in a straight jacket and then say, oh, this is the way we want to go. Those things would have to be well thought out, which is why political scientists often glamorize the place of plebiscites and referendum. This thing we are canvassing, does it have, and I think there is a place for that in the Nigerian constitution. This position we are canvassing, we want a new local government, we want more autonomy or we want more states and what have you. Are you allowing that to be put to the test before the citizenry? Is this something that we all agree on? So when you look at the strategy used by Simon EKPA and that of the leader of IPOB itself, because from the statement here now, it's almost like that distinction has been made about the organization that Simon EKPA was leading, and that of Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu, we know, is the confederated consciousness of IPOB. You can't really say that about Simon EKPA. And from maybe in the future, when historians, when researchers, when sociologists, anthropologists, and all political scientists, when they sit down to distill all these things, we would know what really transpired. And then, thank God, the trial was in Finland. Whatever was really brought to the open court, it's not going to be hidden for too long. And those of us who are journalists can always pour over those things and then communicate them out in the language that the masses would be able to handle, digest, and then lessons of history will be learned. But how did we get to this point in which a Nigerian, I do not know if he sees himself as a Nigerian, because most times you run into folks who say, oh, I'm a Biafran. But what you have with you is the Nigerian passport. What are you doing with that? We do not seek to mock them. It's an aspiration, and there cannot be crime. That cannot constitute a material crime that, oh, you want self-determination. Until that that self-determination is actualized or realized or determined. And then you can say these are the emblems of the republic. If that republic ever materializes, then where you are now is still where you belong. So until that future comes and everything can be dissected, everything can be digested, and everything can be regurgitated, and you know, we won't know what really transpired, because honestly, it calls for concern that people will use the genuine pain, the genuine injury, political injury, the genuine tragedy of a people to want to amass wealth, because so many things came up. So, certain disclosures were made in the course of all this, that you find that that running cord, the thread of corruption and fraud was involved in some of the activities we looked at as genuine agitation. And I hope some lessons will be learned in this. When some people, when some people when they come on the block and they say, "Oh, join us, this is what we are doing," I hope our people will be more discreet. Our people would be more cautioned in embracing ideologies and mantras from people who are sometimes rabble rousers. I hope justice has not been miscarried in this. We do not know if there will be an appeal, but all things considered, 6 years is a light sentence in view of the charge of terrorism that was preferred against Mr. Simon Ekpa. That's really light. And some of his people will still want to feel sore and bad. But for me, I look at it that it's even better, because if he's been deported to Nigeria like the authorities there had wanted, you think he would get the justice that he deserves? And then the thing was handled speedily. Look at the endless years of trial that Nnamdi Kanu has been facing in Nigeria there. So when Nigerians have the opportunity of facing justice overseas, they get justice expeditiously. When it comes to the country there, if that justice is ever served at all, if it is ever served at all, it's always long and winding. Some people tried to kill me in Nigeria before. I was seeking justice in court. I remember even the things that transpired there. At some point, I just gave up. I gave up.
Thank you so much.
I hope we will recalibrate our system, and the words of people like Obi Okwesili, the former minister, who spoke last week at NBA. I think the advice from her will reverberate in the minds of our lawyers and those who are saddled with the responsibility of social re-engineering for Nigeria. The system must work for its citizens. That is the simple advice here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Everybody, do us a favor, hit like, share, subscribe, follow, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live. This edition will be back again very, very soon. Thank you so much for stopping by. Take care and God bless.